Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you for agreeing to meet with me today. Just going to be talking about anti-bias educating and such. What is your name?
I'm Alicia Trask.
Yeah. Okay. And what is your cultural background?
I would say my cultural background is Asian American. I grew up in Japan my whole life. I lived there until I was 18 on a military base.
Okay.
So I was immersed in like both American culture, I would say, on the base, and then when I would leave the base, it's just like it's Japan.
Yeah.
So I grew up speaking both languages as well.
That's awesome. I actually didn't know that about you. And how old is the children that you teach?
So my children that I teach throughout the school year are 4 years old, pre-K 4, but I also have, I sometimes go into the infant rooms and like the other classes, the 2 and 3. Me too, they're like my favorite. But but the 4-year-olds also, they're great. They're super smart and they have a lot of things to say, and I have a lot to learn from them too. So
yeah. And one of these questions says, how did you find the person you interviewed? I'll answer that.
Okay.
Like, we share classes together. We're both in the early childhood education program. And then what is your experience with an anti-bias education, and give examples if you have any.
So my experience with anti-bias education, well, I took this course last summer, so ever since then I've been really focused with my children on trying to keep an anti-bias curriculum in my classroom, but also throughout my schooling I was in a DOD school, which is the Armed Forces schooling. And
is that DOD, like Department of Defense?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So throughout my schooling in like the DOD system, I feel like I don't think there's specifically an anti-bias curriculum, but I feel like just because all the children that they do teach are from like all over the world and just so diverse, it's just kind of embedded and it's so subtle that like we all acknowledge our differences and we all respect one another because of those differences.
I feel like because you're in that kind of setting, you kind of have to.
Yeah,
it's kind of more natural. In early childhood settings, you tend to be in certain communities that might have more of one or the other, and then might just have like a tiny drop of a different, that's somebody that's more diverse.
Yes, and that's how where I'm working right now, that's basically how it is. I actually just did an assignment where we like had to find the diversity of our student population, and once I did that, I was interested in seeing like what our population in Gainesville is and like trying to compare the diversity, and my school is not nearly as diverse as what Gainesville is, and I also think Gainesville could be even more diverse than it is.
Gotcha. Okay, next question is, what more, if anything, would you like to do or would you expect someone to do to address diversity or better address diversity?
I think one thing, a big misconception that I see a lot in my classroom is like teachers saying like, oh, we don't see color or we don't do this. But I think a big part of the anti-bias curriculum is to really address our differences and acknowledge them and like celebrate them. And I really wish we would do that more. And I think people are still stuck on that, oh, we don't see color.
It's not there.
Yeah, exactly. And I wish we would acknowledge more.
I think if it was more easy to talk about and say, you're different because of this and I'm different because of this, but that's okay, and people were more open, then it wouldn't be such a touchy subject.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. A lot of my co-teachers and stuff feel very like shy to the subject and don't really talk about it as much, and I really want to show them it's okay to be open about it and have conversations with your kids about it.
I think that's why it's so important early childhood, because you teach them from when they're little, they're open to talk about these things when they
absorb
become adults.
all of it.
And they open that up for the adults in their lives, you know. Okay, next question. How do you or would you address a racial misconception or stereotype in your classroom? Because children can easily like hear things at home and they bring it to school.
Yes, so like in those instances, I feel like in my classroom, I want all my children to already feel safe. And I wouldn't ever like bash a child for saying what they said, because it's literally what they learn from other people.
Yeah, they're just copying.
So like for me, my favorite thing to do is read books to children. I feel like they really get like whenever you show them in print, show them in pictures, and really explain and resonate with like, hey, like this is you, like this child in this book, like you can relate to them. And I feel like guiding them through books, having conversations about it, activities, hands-on activities, and just in your classroom being able to celebrate like you're you and I'm me, and like being confident with yourself. like self-identity, I think is really important too. And I think that helps with the whole respecting one another.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. Okay. And what's an example of where you've celebrated another culture in the classroom that is not your own?
Ooh, okay. So not too long ago, actually, there was Ramadan, and my one student, it was our theme for our class was open a book, open a world. So I asked all my students, bring in your favorite books from home, and we'll read them. And one of my students, interesting, he brought in a book about Ramadan. And so I read to the children about it, and I was like, you know what? Why don't I ask the mom to see if, hey, do you want to come in and like really talk to them about it? And she did, and the kids loved it. They were so interested, and they had a lot of questions for her. And she brought in little snacks for them.
Because 4-year-olds are so open, like
They
they will
really
ask
are.
you anything.
Yes,
And I think we
So-
should all be like 4-year-olds in that aspect of just ask your questions. Like
Yeah.
it's okay.
It was really fun.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. And what is one way you share or have shared a touch of your culture?
Okay, so for me, not even just my culture, I like to do this with all my students. So during circle or morning circle where we're taking attendance and stuff, we will say like, oh, here, like we'll take roll call.
Mm-hmm.
But I give them the option to be like, so for Japan, in Japanese, you would say height is like here,
Mm-hmm.
and Spanish, you say aquí, and like all these different things. So I give them the option before we take roll call. I said, you can say aquí, you can say hi, you can say here. There's all these options to like answer how you want, and
That's
like they love
cute.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they each choose their own way of saying here.
That's
Yeah.
cute. I like that. Okay, and what are some examples of how you would subtly promote diversity in a day-to-day activity? Like during a given activity that you just kind of want to throw in something that would promote the idea of diversity.
So, like I feel like what I just explained was
Yeah.
like kind of subtly putting
Yeah.
that, but like also like having your books that you read to them that connect to the activity, and those books trying to have diverse children shown in our classroom, just having diverse children and people, not even just like diverse cultures, but people that are handicapped or special needs and things like that, I feel like are really important to be visible in the classroom. And for like subtle things, like even like when we're talking, like we were playing in the mud the other day, and we were just like, the little kid was like washing the mud off, and he was like, oh look, I'm washing my mud off, and the little boy was like, oh yeah, I'm washing the mud off, but like the color won't come off with me. And he's like, yeah, that's your color and this is my color.
That
and
is
like,
so sweet.
So like things like that, like subtly promoting and like just having conversations about
that
it.
it's okay to talk about your
just
skin
so
color.
open, yeah.
That's awesome. I really enjoy that. Okay. And last question is, does the center you work at have an emphasis in diversity as part of the school's objective or mission? I know some, like, they really, part of their overall, like, objective is to really open up those conversations. And does yours do that?
Okay, so that's really interesting you asked. In my project that we did like the student population thing in, we also had to talk about our school's mission, and yes, our mission statement, it does include like accepting all children from different backgrounds, and then just trying to accept them and nurture them in that way and not try to like change them in any way. And that's basically what our mission statement states.
See, I think that's awesome because so many schools are kind of adopting that, and that never was. It was just like, we want to provide top of the line childcare and education, and now it's like, no, we want to like really make this into the curriculum, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for answering my questions.